Have you ever gone to bed completely, utterly exhausted? Not because your day was physically demanding, not because you ran a marathon or carried something heavy, but because your mind simply refused to let the day end. You lie there in the dark, staring at the ceiling. The house is quiet. The world has already fallen asleep, but inside your head, something is just beginning. A conversation from 3 days ago suddenly comes back. You replay a single sentence you wish you had said differently. You wonder why someone paused before replying to your message. You imagine conversations that haven't happened. You rehearse explanations you'll probably never need. Before you realize it, you've spent an hour preparing for a future that may never arrive. From the outside, it looks like overthinking. People who care about you might say, "You're worrying too much. Just let it go. Try to get some sleep." They mean well, but if you've ever lived inside a mind like this, you know it isn't that simple. Because it doesn't feel like ordinary thinking. It feels like carrying something invisible, a weight you can't put down, a quiet tension that follows you from morning to night, never fully allowing your body or your heart to rest. Most advice tells you to think less, distract yourself, stay busy, be more confident, stop worrying about things you can't control. Sometimes those things help for a little while, but if you've tried them before, you may have noticed something. The thoughts always seem to find their way back. Maybe that's because the thoughts were never the real problem. Perhaps your mind isn't trapped in this endless loop because it's weak. Perhaps it isn't trying to make your life more difficult. It may simply be trying to protect you. Not from physical danger, not even from uncertainty itself, but from something much quieter. The fear that if life catches you off guard, you won't know how to carry what comes next. So your mind keeps searching. One more explanation, one more possibility, one more plan, one more way to make tomorrow feel a little more predictable than today. Not because it enjoys worrying, but because somewhere along the way, it learned that staying alert felt safer than relaxing. Maybe there was a season when life changed without warning. Maybe trust was broken. Maybe things fell apart when you never expected them to. Or maybe nothing dramatic happened at all. Perhaps years of small disappointments quietly taught your nervous system the same lesson. Don't let your guard down. When your mind learns that lesson, it doesn't easily forget. And that's why no amount of thinking ever seems to bring the peace you're searching for. Because your mind was never searching for the perfect answer. It was searching for something much deeper. The feeling that whatever tomorrow brings, you'll still be okay. And once you begin to see your overthinking through that lens, it stops looking like a flaw that needs to be fought. It begins to look like a part of you that has been trying, however imperfectly, to keep you safe. And that realization changes where this journey begins. When your mind begins to believe that certainty is the only way to feel safe, life quietly, almost imperceptibly, begins to shrink. It doesn't happen all at once with a sudden, dramatic crisis. There is no single moment where you wake up and decide to stop living boldly or to turn away from new possibilities. Instead, it happens in tiny, unnoticed increments. Just a little more each day, like a quiet erosion of your freedom. You hesitate before sending a simple text message, overanalyzing the punctuation, the emojis, and the subtle tone. You reread a routine work email one more time, and then once more, just to ensure there is absolutely zero room for misinterpretation or criticism. You delay making a decision about your career, your relationships, or your personal goals, endlessly waiting for more data, more reassurance, or a clear sign that guarantees you won't make a mistake. We often mistake this exhausting process for wisdom and responsibility. We look at our hypervigilance and tell ourselves, "I'm just being thorough. I'm just being careful. I want to make sure I do this right." But there is a thin, dangerous line between being genuinely prepared and being completely paralyzed by fear. When your energy is constantly funneled into predicting and rehearsing every potential future, you inadvertently disconnect from the only reality that actually exists, the present moment. Your physical body is right here, in your room, at your desk, sitting next to the people you love, but your consciousness is miles away, trapped inside a bleak, worst-case scenario that hasn't even happened yet, and very likely never will. Without realizing it, you start turning small, everyday choices into high-stakes survival tests. A casual social interaction becomes a high-pressure performance to be scrutinized afterward. A new opportunity for growth becomes a terrifying threat to your fragile sense of stability. A quiet moment of rest becomes an open invitation for anxiety to fill the silence with fresh worries. And this is the true, hidden cost of needing absolute certainty. It doesn't actually make you safer from life's pain, it simply makes your world smaller. In an effort to protect yourself from potential failure, disappointment, or awkwardness, you build a mental fortress around yourself. But over time, as you add more and more walls of caution, that protective fortress gradually turns into an isolated cage. You trade the richness of real, authentic experiences, with all their messiness, unpredictability, and spontaneous joy, for a controlled, highly predictable environment where nothing can touch you, but where nothing can move you forward either. You begin to value avoiding potential failure far more than you value experiencing real growth. You begin to prefer the uncomfortable comfort of familiar anxiety over the unfamiliar terrain of new possibilities. And the tragic irony is that no matter how much you analyze, no matter how many backup plans you construct, absolute certainty remains an impossible illusion. Life, by its very nature, will always be unpredictable. By spending all your vital energy trying to control the uncontrollable, you don't prevent life's storms. You simply exhaust your mind long before the first drop of rain ever falls. For a long time, you may have believed that confidence was the missing piece. Maybe you've told yourself, if I were more confident, I wouldn't overthink so much. If I believed in myself more, I wouldn't be so afraid. It sounds reasonable, but perhaps confidence was never the place to begin. Because think about it. Have you ever met someone who appeared confident, yet still lay awake at night questioning every decision they made? Have you ever watched someone succeed while secretly wondering if they were enough? Confidence can exist, and self-doubt can still whisper beneath it, which means confidence alone cannot be the answer. Perhaps what your mind has been searching for all along isn't confidence, it's trust. Not trust that life will always go according to plan, not trust that people will never disappoint you, not trust that you'll never make another mistake, but trust in something much closer. Trust in yourself, the kind of trust that quietly says, whatever happens, I won't abandon myself. That is very different from confidence. Confidence often depends on circumstances. It grows when things go well. It shrinks when life becomes uncertain. But self-trust is different. Self-trust doesn't ask, will everything be okay? It asks, if things aren't okay, will I still be there for myself? That single shift changes everything, because overthinking has never really been searching for perfect answers. It has been searching for reassurance, for evidence that someone will know what to do when life becomes unpredictable. For years, your mind may have believed that someone had to be smarter, more prepared, more capable, someone who could prevent pain before it arrived. Without realizing it, you were waiting for yourself to become that person. The beautiful truth is, you don't become that person by predicting every possible future. You become that person one promise at a time, every time you keep your word to yourself. Every time you face something uncomfortable instead of running from it. Every time life surprises you and you discover that you survived anyway. That is how self-trust is built, not through certainty, through experience. Little by little, your mind begins collecting new evidence. I didn't know what would happen, but I handled it. That was painful, but I recovered. I made a mistake, and I was still worthy of kindness. Those moments may seem ordinary, but they quietly rewrite the story your nervous system has been telling for years. Instead of believing, I need to control everything to be safe, you slowly begin believing, I can handle more than I once thought. And perhaps that has been the missing piece all along. Not becoming fearless, not becoming perfect, not becoming certain, simply becoming someone your own mind can finally trust. By now, you may have noticed something. Your mind isn't simply producing random thoughts. It tends to follow the same familiar paths. The scenery changes, the situations change, the people change, but somehow, the pattern always feels the same. It's almost as if your mind has learned a handful of ways to protect you and keeps using them over and over again, hoping that this time they'll finally bring the certainty they've been searching for. The first pattern often begins with something surprisingly small. A short message, a delayed reply, a meeting added to your calendar. On their own, these moments are harmless, but your mind quietly fills in all the blank spaces before reality ever has a chance to. One unanswered text becomes rejection. One mistake becomes failure. One difficult conversation becomes the beginning of losing everything. You haven't received bad news, yet somehow your body is already living through it. Your heart beats faster, your shoulders tighten. Your nervous system prepares for a future that doesn't even exist yet. And by the time reality finally arrives, you're already exhausted from surviving a story your mind created on its own. Sometimes the pattern looks different. Instead of imagining the future, you begin imagining what everyone else must be thinking about you. A friend seems quieter than usual. Someone ends a conversation a little earlier than expected. A colleague doesn't smile as warmly as yesterday. Your mind immediately begins translating those tiny moments into conclusions. They must be disappointed in me. I probably said something wrong. They're pulling away. But the truth is, most of the time, you aren't hearing their thoughts. You're hearing your own fears echoed back at you. And because those fears sound so familiar, they begin to feel like facts. Then there are the conversations that never seem to end. The ones you replay while driving home, while taking a shower, while trying to fall asleep. You rewrite your sentences, you imagine better responses, you prepare for conversations that may never happen. It feels responsible. It feels productive, as if one more rehearsal might finally protect you from misunderstanding, rejection, or regret. But life has never followed a script. People surprise us. Moments unfold in ways we cannot predict, and no amount of rehearsing can remove the uncertainty that makes human connection real in the first place. Perhaps the most convincing pattern of all is the quiet belief that you're simply being careful. You tell yourself you're waiting for the right moment, doing a little more research, thinking things through one last time. From the outside, it looks responsible, but if you're honest, how many dreams have remained untouched because you were waiting to feel completely certain? How many opportunities quietly passed while you searched for guarantees that life has never promised anyone? Sometimes what looks like perfection is simply fear wearing a gentler voice. The hardest part is that none of these habits were created to hurt you. They were created to protect you. At some point, they probably did. They helped you avoid pain. They helped you stay alert. They helped you feel a little more prepared in an unpredictable world. But protection can quietly become a prison when it never knows it's safe to stop. And perhaps that's why your mind feels so tired. Not because it isn't strong enough, but because it has been standing guard for far longer than it was ever meant to. Perhaps the most surprising part of this journey is realizing that your mind was never your enemy. For so long, you've probably believed that peace would come once you finally learned how to stop thinking. If only the thoughts would disappear, if only the anxiety would become quiet, if only you could control your mind a little better. But maybe peace has never been about winning a battle inside your head, because every time you fight your thoughts, your mind hears the same message. This must be dangerous. And if something feels dangerous, your brain does exactly what it was designed to do. It pays even more attention. Maybe that is why trying to force your thoughts away has always been so exhausting, not because you're doing it wrong, but because your mind has mistaken your resistance for another reason to stay alert. So perhaps the invitation isn't to think less. Perhaps it's to struggle less with the thoughts that are already here. Imagine standing beneath a wide open sky. Clouds drift across it. Some are light, some are heavy, some become storms, but the sky never argues with the clouds. It doesn't chase them away. It doesn't ask them to disappear faster. It simply makes room for them until they pass. Your mind can learn to do the same. The next time a frightening thought appears, you don't have to climb inside it. You don't have to prove it wrong. You don't have to solve it before you can sleep. You can simply notice it. My mind is trying to protect me again. Nothing more. Because a thought is not a command. It is not a prediction. It is not the future. It is only a thought. And then, something else begins to change. Instead of asking, what if everything goes wrong? You quietly ask, even if it does, will I still be there for myself? That question changes everything, because overthinking has always searched for certainty. Self-trust doesn't. Self-trust says, I may not know what tomorrow will bring, but I know I won't abandon myself when it arrives. For a moment, feel your feet touching the ground. Notice your breathing. Listen to the sounds around you. Not because these things magically erase anxiety, but because they gently remind your nervous system of something your thoughts keep forgetting. Right now, nothing is asking you to solve your entire future. Right now, this moment is enough, and perhaps that is what safety has been trying to tell you all along. Not that life will become predictable, not that pain will never come, but that you are slowly becoming someone who can meet life without carrying the impossible burden of controlling it first. The next time you find yourself awake at 2 a.m, replaying old conversations, or rehearsing tomorrow before it has even arrived, pause. Take one slow breath. Place a hand over your heart. Not because it will instantly make every anxious thought disappear, but because you're reminding yourself of something your mind has been longing to hear for a very long time. Thank you for trying to protect me. I know why you're afraid, but you don't have to carry this alone anymore. We're safe enough to rest. And maybe, for the first time in a long while, you won't fall asleep because every question has been answered. You'll fall asleep because you've stopped believing that every question needs one.